I have this itch to create, but there's always a monster standing between my desires and the publish button. It's a nasty, tangled mess of self-doubt and anxiety. It kills motivation and emanates an aura of overthinking paralysis. I've realized that if I want to actually reach my goals, I have to kill this thing, and the only weapon that consistently works, Game Jams. Hey friend, I'm Richie, a level 20 procrastinator, and the only thing that finally dragged me out of my rut, signing up for a tabletop RPG game jam. It felt like I possessed the creativity to produce some good content, but I was aimlessly wandering. But Game Jams gave me a quest I could laser focus on. Suddenly, I had a hard deadline, specific constraints to design around, and most importantly, pressure to actually ship something, and my overthinking paralysis was broken. If you're new to the concept, a game jam is basically a creative sprint. You've got a set window of time to build an RPG product, usually hosted on a platform like itch.io, and you can tackle it solo or with a team. The real magic, though, is the constraints. Every jam has its own set of rules, specific page limits, layout requirements, and a required theme to keep you focused. For my first one, the Weird Tales Shadowdark Game Jam, the entrants had to design an adventure module for Shadowdark RPG. Had to be 8 pages long, using 3 randomly assigned 1920s era Weird Tales pulp magazine covers as inspiration. There were a few weeks to grind out your submission, then the community rates the entries, and finally a panel of judges picks the winners. And what was the entire point of the jam? To force you to stop polishing and start publishing. Starting is always the hardest part, but a game jam can help alleviate this. It allows you to filter all the ideas floating around that big old brain of yours and create something coherent, because restrictions breed creativity. You'll be forced to problem solve, to squeeze your module within these constraints, but this extra pressure is what helps create a diamond. If starting is the hardest part, the second hardest is finishing. If you're anything like me, you don't just work on a project, you obsess over it. You can spend an hour moving a single image 1 pixel to the right just to see if it feels better. You delete entire paragraphs because they feel too generic, and spend 3 full days hunting for the perfect font, only to end up right back where you started with Century Gothic. Eventually you stare at the screen for so long that you start to hate your own work, and you end up scrapping the whole thing. If that sounds familiar, game jams are for you. There is something incredibly powerful about a hard, non-negotiable deadline. It's binary. You either submit it on time or you don't. If you've poured hours into a project, that fear of missing the deadline becomes the ultimate kick in the pants. Look, failing to publish isn't the end of the world, but it's rough. You're left holding a half-finished module, feeling like all that effort went to waste. Sure, you might tell yourself you'll come back to it later, but let's be real, you probably won't. And even if you do, you've already missed out on the baked-in benefits of the jam, like constructive feedback. The second that submission window ends, the voting phase begins. This is your ticket to getting guaranteed eyes on your work. Here you're gonna get feedback, but you're expected to give feedback too. A jam will have specific categories to rate entries out of 5, like usability, artwork, theme adherence, or overall enjoyment. Now you could just rate all the categories out of 5 and call it a day, but that's missing the best part. A real community forms around these jams, and people will leave incredibly thorough, thoughtful critiques in your comment section. I found that if I take the time to leave meaningful reviews on someone else's project, they almost always return the favor. Putting your work out there for public scrutiny is definitely terrifying, but honestly, every single jam I've entered has been an absolute goldmine of positivity and support. People want to help you succeed. Sure, not every piece of advice is going to apply to your vision, but this is your playground to figure out what landed and what bombed. If you interpret the comments, you can figure out exactly where players got confused or where a mechanic felt half-baked. And this type of information is pure gold if you ever want to polish this module up and actually sell it. And yes, you can absolutely make money doing this. Platforms like itch.io make selling your work incredibly seamless. When you upload your module, you just set a price, connect it to your PayPal account, and watch the dollars roll in. Now, while the jam is ongoing, you need to keep your project free or pay what you want. You don't want a paywall stopping people from downloading, reviewing, and rating your stuff. But once the dust settles and the jam is over, take that community feedback, fix the confusing parts, and roll out a polished version 2.0. And if you poured your heart and soul into building a great adventure, don't feel guilty about charging for it. Your time has value, and your content has value. But to transition your passion project into actual sales, you need a massive wave of new eyes on your page, and that's exactly why ranking high in a game jam can really benefit your sales, to get that sweet, sweet exposure. In my very first game jam, I felt like the stars aligned. I was playing a ton of Shadowdark at the time, and the random pulp covers assigned to me provided the perfect creative spark. I mashed up some existing Shadowdark lore, classic pulp fantasy tropes, and a simple, accessible premise to create The Diabolical Lair of Professor Memnon. It's a wacky adventure featuring an eccentric, wealthy, mad scientist villain who forces his subservient subservient kobolds to do his bidding while wearing fake red lion manes. When the community voting wrapped up, my module placed second. A live stream featuring some of the big names of the tabletop RPG community reviewed the top 5 submissions, and they picked my entry, The Diabolical Lair of Professor Memnon, as the winner. It was a very cool feeling, and I came away with some sweet prizes, including a physical copy of Shadowdark and a $50 Amazon gift card. But the real prize? The friends I made along the way. Actually, I didn't really make many friends. That's just a me problem. I had plenty of opportunity to. I'm very introverted. I mostly just lurked in the Discord channel. What I did gain was exposure. I haven't done a single shred of marketing for this thing, and I haven't updated it once since the jam ended, yet it has been downloaded over 1,500 times. For a project born out of pure procrastination, that's a massive win for me. And if you want to check it out for yourself, it's still completely free to download. I've left a link in the description below. And look, it's not perfect, but maybe one day I'll finally sit down, fix it up, and release a paid version 2.0. But honestly, I'd probably have to join a polish jam just to get the motivation to do it. But by far, the coolest thing to happen out of this entire experience was having a game master reach out to me. A total stranger, living in a completely different country, sent me a message just to tell me how much he loved running the Diabolical Lair of Professor Memnon. He even convinced his players to wear these cheesy red lion manes while playing at the table. Because at the end of the day, that's the real goal. The best part of designing an adventure is knowing that your words helped craft a memorable, hilarious, and positive experience for a group of friends around a table. So if you've been trapped in your own head, staring at a blank page, go find a game jam to join. It might just be the exact catalyst you need to kickstart your publishing career. And hey, if you're a tabletop RPG publisher watching this, please run a jam for your game. They don't happen nearly often enough, and there's no better way to build a passionate community, generate incredible content, and create some excitement for your game system. And if you're looking to get better at game jams, you can check out this video here, provided I've found the motivation to make it.